Alright guys, so welcome to this tutorial on mastering Python conditionals. This tutorial is going to be short and very brief, but at the end of this tutorial you should be able to understand how to write conditionals in Python and why they are extremely important. Okay, so before we start, conditionals are the basic building block of any complex software. Okay, when you think of how a software can actually automate a task or perform a certain task without human interference, it's because of conditionals. For example, think of when you want to buy something in an e-commerce store, and then you want to use your credit balance in your voucher to like buy that particular stuff. The way the system understand if your voucher will be enough to pay for that particular item you are about to purchase is when it checks if the condition, for example, if your voucher balance is equal to the amount of that item that you are about to purchase. Okay, so the way that works is conditional, is something we call conditionals. So when a set of condition is actually met, something will proceed. If it doesn't, then something else will happen. So you are going to learn how to like write that kind of code using Python. So why does condition matters in Python? Because conditional is how program thinks. Okay, when you write a condition, your program begin to think in the line of that condition. Is this condition meet? Is this condition met? If that condition met, then a certain activity happens in your system. If that condition is not met, then something else will actually happen. So conditionals allow your system to actually think, and you're going to learn how to actually create that. And then also it allows your code to react differently to different inputs. For example, if somebody inputs a string, or if somebody inputs an integer, or if somebody input 5, or if somebody inputs 6, your system is going to react depending on what your conditions are. All right, so the next importance of conditionals. Now, the next importance of conditionals is that conditionals are used in everything, okay? Both in AI, logic system, any kind of system you use or you actually interact with, there is always a condition. In fact, the basic building blocks of that particular system you interact with is something called conditionals, okay? So we are going to like learn how to like do that. So what will you be learning today, or what will I be covering today? The basic if statement. You're going to learn the syntax, the structure of conditionals, how you can combine them with different ones, and then we are also going to build a real life project using conditionals to actually test our knowledge to see if we've understood everything we've covered. So let's head over to I should change this to conditionals. So conditionals. So let's head over to our Jupyter notebook. If you don't have a Jupyter notebook, you can actually follow up with maybe VS Code or Sublime Text, any other coding environment that you have. So I'm going to create another environment right here, and I'm going to say call this conditionals. Okay. So Python has reserved keywords for us to define conditions, and there are three reserved keywords when it comes to how we structure a condition. The first one is the if keyword, the next one is the if keyword, and the third one is the else keyword. We are going to see how we use all of this. Okay. Now, if let's see if we can how we can use these three keywords and determine something. Okay, so now let's define a function. Now, if you've not watched my function tutorial, you should go back and watch that properly, and so that you see how you can define and call a function. So we are going to define a function now. This function is going to check age. We are going to call this function check age. Check age. Okay, so this function is going to take a parameter, an integer called age. All right, so what this function is going to do is that it is going to check if it's simply going to check if our age, if the person's age, or the person who is calling this function age, is at a specific meet a specific conditions, and then as a result of that is going to print out something to the screen. Okay, so we are going to say if this is the statement that we use if. So we are going to say if age is equals 30. If age is equals 30, so what is going to happen is that we are going to print print hooray. So you are going to say hooray. You can enter. You can enter the hall. You can enter the hall. Alright. So that is just what we are going to do right now. And then, so what we've done here is that we've created this function which is going to check the age of the person that is calling this function. And then when if the age of the person is equals to 30, so if the age of the person is equals to 30, yeah, we are going to say, okay, this person age is equals to 30. You can actually enter this particular place. All right. So what if this person age is not equals to 30? What will happen? We've not had a condition for that, so we'll check. So let's run this particular one first, and let's call this function, and then let's pass 27 into this particular function. And then if we run this now, nothing is printed out into the screen because this person age is not equals to 30. Okay, so how can we make sure that we cover when this person age is equals to 30? So what we can now do in this place is now we can now say something like s, which is where this next keyword comes. So this next keyword simply means that if the first condition, or if a condition does not meet, then everything inside this else statement is actually now going to run. So inside this statement we can now add something like you are not up to 30. So we can say you are not up to 30. All right. So we can now say once this condition is not met, we can now say you are not up to 30. So let's run this right now, and if we print this out right now, you can see that you are not up to 30. So the s keyword is used whenever none of the condition that you've set is met. So when none of that condition is met, instead of the function not to return anything, it is simply going to return whatever you put inside this else statement. All right. Now what if you want to check multiple ages, not just 27? Let's say you want to check someone that is not just 30, rather. Let's say you want to check someone that is 27, you want to check someone like 30. That is where we now use this if statement. Okay. Now we now come here, and after this if, we can now use if. So we can now say age equals 27. So how this thing reads now is, okay, let me put this print statement. Okay, let me put this print statement right here, and I'll say you are 27, you are 27, you can enter the hall, right? So how this statement reads is that we call the function and we pass age into that function. So it will take that age that we pass into that function and check if that age is equals to like 30. If the age is equals to 30, it's going to print out this statement, right? But if the age is not equals to 30, it is now going to check the second condition and say is age equals to 27. If age is equals to 27, it will now do this and print out this statement. But if age is not equals to 27, it will now fall back to this particular one. Now if we have other condition we want to check, we can simply just copy this and then we paste this. So let's say we want to check if the person age is equals to like 40. If the person age is now equals to like 40. Okay, so if the person age is now equals to 20, you can now say okay, you are 40, you can now enter the hall, right? So let's print this out. Let's save this. We save this, and let's save this right now. We save this now and we run this. So if you run this now, you can see hooray, you're 27, you can enter the hall. If you change this to like 40, we can now run this again, say hooray, you are 40, you can enter the hall. So if you change this to like 50, you can say you are not up to 30, you cannot enter the hall. But now you can see that these are if statement does not really make sense, because 50 here is equals to 30, is even more than 30. The person should be able to enter inside the hall. So why is it that 40 can enter and 50 cannot enter? The reason is because we did not add this if statement for 50. But we cannot keep adding for all the ages here. We need to like make our logic be more sensible. For example, provided somebody is equals to or above 30 years, then the person should be able to enter the hall. And if you are not equals to 30 or above 30, then you should not be able to enter the hall. So we can now delete or clean this our system and write this check age function to even make more sense. All right. So let's create another function here. We call this check age 2. So we are going to say check age 2, check age 2, and it's also going to take age right now. Okay, it's also going to take age right now. And so what this is going to do right now is that it is going to check if age is greater. So this is the symbol for us to check if something is greater. If you want to check if something is greater, you use this particular greater than sign. If you want to check if something is lesser, you use this particular less than sign. Yeah, less than sign. Okay, now if you want to check if something is greater or is greater than or equals to that specific number, you combine greater than and equals to. So this is greater than or equals to. If you want to do less than or equals to, you can do less than or equals to. All right, so that is how you do that. Okay, now so but in this case we want to do greater than or equals to. So we want to make sure that the person age is greater than or at least equals to 30. So if the person age is greater than or equals to 30, we can now say, we can now print out the statement and say, you can enter the hall. Okay, you can enter the hall. S now, we can now say you cannot enter the hall. So let's change this to S, and let's copy this one more time. I'm going to copy this one more time. So let me bring this closer and save this. Okay, now you can see that we've reduced this function from all of this, which was checking age one after the other, to just these two. Okay, now this one can simply check if the person's age is equals to 30 or is greater than 30. If it's not, you can just print out you are not up to 30, right? So when we save this right now and we come here and we call this check age function right here, so despite the number you put, it's going to give you accurate results. So if you put 23 in this first instance, you can see you are not up to 30. But if you put 30 right here, it will tell you that you can enter the hall. Even if you put like 90 years now, so the person should still be able to enter because 90 is greater than 30. Or at least it's equals to 30. Okay, now this is how you use if statement. But before we conclude this tutorial, let me introduce you to other operators that we use with conditionals. So when we use equals to, this is what we call a comparison operator. So a comparison operator is used to compare if what is on the right hand side is equals to what is on the left hand side. Okay, for example, you can use it to we use it here to compare if 30 is equals to age. All right, so that is a comparison operator. We also have different other types of comparison operator like greater than, less than, and we also have another one which is greater than or equals to. We also have less than or equals to, and finally we have another one called not equals to. So this particular guy signify not equals to. So let me bring that down. Not equal to, not equal to. Okay, so this is used to ensure that a number, to check if a particular variable is not equals to this particular variable. Okay, for example, if we create a function and we say a function check date, so check day. So if you create a function check day, so this function is going to take the day of the week, and what it's going to do is that it is going to print out if that particular day is Sunday. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to say if day is not equals to, okay, so let this function just check if it is days that we go to work. Okay, now the only days we don't go to work is on Sundays, right? So provided it is not equals to Sunday, okay, provided the day we are not that we are going to put whenever we call this function is not equals to Sunday, we are simply going to say you can go to work. So we are going to say if not equals to Sunday, if it is not equal to Sunday. So what we are going to do here is print sorry about that. So oops, you can you can go to work. Okay, you can go to work, right? So S, it is weekend, so we are going to print it is weekend. Or we are going to say you can't you cannot go to work. Okay, so that is what this function is going to do. And so let's save this function right here, and we are going to call day check day, and we pass a string here. Let's pass a string called Saturday or Friday first. So let's pass a string called Friday, and because it is Friday, we can go to work because it is not Sunday. Okay, if you pass Friday, Monday, pass Monday, it will be you can go to work, right? But what if you pass Sunday here? What if you pass Sunday right here? If you pass Sunday right now, you can say you will see you cannot go to work because it is now equals to Sunday. So provided any day, anytime the days is equals to Sunday, it will tell us that we cannot go to work. But provided it is equals to Sunday, or I mean it's not equals to Sunday, which is the logic we put here, you can see that it will always print you can go to work. So that is where you use this particular operator when you want to compare if what is on the right is not equals to what is on the left, right? So there are other operators like this to check if something is greater or less, and this particular I mean if something is greater than or equals to, why this one is if something is less than or equals to. So those are the operators that comes together with using an if statement. You can see that even in very complex application and in very small application, using this statement, using this if statement allows you to allow your application to think accurately and think more intelligently. So what is left for you now is to think of a situation where you might want to use conditionals, or in your application or maybe in data science where you might want to use conditionals, and try to replicate what we've done here and see if you can be able to succeed. That is everything we have to talk about in this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.